All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. It is Friday, October 1st, 2021. My name is Jake Luke, and I'm joined by Mr. Spenjamin Powers here on my screen. How's it going, bud?
Going well. Getting over a little coldy pie. I always get one this time of the year. We were just talking about it a minute ago. The old seasonal allergies will get you. Everything will get you. So I'm recovering from that. It was a fun Thursday night game last night. Looking forward to a fun Maryland-Iowa game tonight that I feel good now. Like I don't feel sick at all. I've been taking plenty of meds. I might go to that game. I might just pick my boots up, strap them on, and go to that game. So I'm excited about that. But excited for a fun matchup this weekend with a team the Ravens haven't really played in a long time, despite being in the same conference, which is strange, but going to be a good weekend of football. We're into fall. We're into sad boy season. It's pumpkin spice season. It's latte season. It's pumpkin pie season, most importantly. And football's really here. We're in the deep plums at this point, week 4.
Yeah, and to your original point there, you can check out my Twitter at Jake Luke for a little dilemma that I'm dealing with right now. Definitely a bandwagon Maryland football fan. I'm more of a basketball guy as far as their program goes. Which
I don't think you're a fair weather Maryland football fan.
Fair weather, yeah, sure, for sure.
I am too.
Yeah. So, and 4-0 for the first time in years. So we got that going on, and we got the Many Saints of Newark debuting today. So I'm a big go to the movies by myself guy, as I learned just before COVID. Really want to get back into that. So I'm thinking about going to what would effectively be my version of the premiere tonight. So excited for that. Excited for Maryland football. But maybe I'll just watch the game and go see the movie tomorrow. Or not tomorrow. I'm going to be busy, but at some point. But it's a big dilemma for me. Just like Urban Meyer in the picture has a big dilemma in front of him. Really good meme work by myself. So hate to toot my own horn to start the show here, but that's what I'm doing.
I love it. I love Many Saints of Newark coming out. I tried to do a rewatch, but I actually just finished The Sopranos for the first time all the way through, consecutively, I think a year ago maybe. So I started and I was like, I remember everything. I'm fresh. I've watched I've watched it many times, but in segments. That was the first time I just crushed right through. So I'm fresh. I'm ready. I'm excited. And it feels like it's a good weekend. The weather's still fairly nice. We're getting to the jeans and t-shirt weather with sneakers, which is my number one favorite time of the year. So the spirits are up. Spirits are up, boys.
Yeah, I think it is a good time as well. It's about in the 60 region, so I'm rocking the QZ and the joggers today as I work from home, which is a nice feeling. Windows are cracked. It's a little chilly. Going to try to get out for a run as well. But yeah, I completed a rewatch myself actually recently, probably like a month or two ago. So I'm really, really boned up, really ready to get into it, and I'm excited about that. But of course, that's not what we're here to talk about, is it?
Not at all. Not one bit.
So Baltimore Ravens, 2-1. They're a battle-tested 2-1, as I wrote today on BaltimoreBeatdown.com, which you should check out. They have a chance to prove that they are even more battle-tested than we might think they are. They're going to Denver, Rocky Mountain Way, taking on the Broncos at Mile High Field, the house that Horseface built. And it's going to be quite the game. Broncos 3-0, coming off let's just be honest, a little bit of a weak schedule against the Giants, Jets, and Jaguars. They combined 0-9, so the Broncos are 3-0. Maybe going to be facing that conversation the Ravens have faced at times about just kind of whipping up on bad teams, but the Ravens themselves have proven to be, if nothing else, a pretty damn gritty team and an exciting team to watch. So looks like there's going to be some fireworks in the offing this coming Sunday. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, this Ravens team hasn't seen the Broncos in the Lamar Jackson era. They did play in 2018, the last time these two divisions played, and the Ravens walked out of M&T Bank Stadium with a 27-14 decisive win over a Case Keenum-led Broncos team. Royce Freeman, a player I was really high on coming out, and hasn't quite lived up to expectation. They used to have Marquette King back then when he was booming some punts back in the day. They did have Josie Jewell, Justin Simmons, Derek Wolfe. They had Shaq Barrett. Quite a bit of good young players on the team. Bradley Chubb, I think, had a sack in that game. Cortland Sutton, a rookie. So everybody remembers that 2018 season. One of the probably most boring games, I'd say, from that season overall, right? Especially a win.
Ravens favor, yeah.
Yeah, especially a win. So
Denver blocked a punt to open the game, and I'll always remember Kyle Andrews, former Baltimore Beatdown writer. He's now covering Penn State up at State College. He's a great guy, but he he had a tendency to get a little negative with the Ravens sometimes. They block that punt, score the touchdown, and I will never forget in the Slack, writes blowout incoming. And I'm like, yeah, bud, like, let's just hang on for a minute here. And turns out I was correct on that one.
And was that the same year, or was that 2019 where the Bengals opened up with a kick return touchdown?
That was 2019.
That was 2019, right? Yeah, the Ravens do some weird. I mean, Chiefs game, pick six early on in that game. Like, Ravens have done some dumb stuff in the first quarter of the last couple games. But actually, I think Lamar Jackson's only thrown I think that was his against the Chiefs. I think that was his fourth first quarter interception. The second one.
He's been. We can talk about this. Obviously, when we get into the game, he's been a little more turnover prone this year. Maybe as a function, as I saw you mixing it up with Baldwin a little bit on his kind of boring play versus risk taker versus whatever chart that was. I thought that was
the chart called him a gunslinger. And is he pushing the ball downfield? Yes, but gunslinger to me implies or risk taker. Pardon me, that's what it was.
Yeah, but same thing.
It just, to me, that's not the right term. I don't think he's taking risks. I think he's just made poor reads and thrown some. The pick to Tyrann Mathieu, the second one, was just that wasn't a risk. It was a bad decision. There was no upside to that throw. You're throwing into double coverage into Marquise Brown, and Tyrann Mathieu's coming over on the weak side, picks it off. There's no, it wasn't a risk reward. It was all risk. So it was a bad decision. So I thought that was just weird wording to put it. But yeah, he is pushing the ball downfield. He did fumble against the Raiders when he carried the ball. And, Ravens have fumbled a couple times. The Devin Duvernay caught touchdown, which funny, he has 2 touchdowns. I didn't realize that until I forgot about that.
One of them was the Tyson grab the fumble and fire drill and plunges into the end zone. Devin Duvernay addicted to scoring weird touchdowns.
Yes, and that's the one I'm talking about. I forgot that one even happened. So teams have just been sticking their helmet or perfectly punching balls out of the Ravens' hands a couple times, and they actually haven't done that much, which is their forte, their specialty, the Ravens' defense. So I think teams are kind of conscious of that now, very, very much so, especially Marlon Humphrey after what he did last year. So curious to see how that goes in this game. But yeah, Lamar is pushing the ball downfield. And I mean, the Sammy Watkins one, it was kind of like a trip, and you saw them talk about it on the sideline on the Ravens wired, and it was just a little bit of a weird throw, weird decision. Sammy slips, whatever. But the one against the Lions, the picky throws against the Lions was Hollywood Brown. We get the all-22 on, and he just didn't run his route. He was a decoy running a deep route so that Sammy Watkins would pull the deep zone away so that Sammy Watkins could advance on a cross, and Marquise Brown just stopped running. Why would Lamar expect him to stop running? Throws it up. Sammy Watkins looked like he thought oh, that's for Marquise Brown. That ball is going over there, because there's guys right next to me, and nothing. So that was probably, the drops are bad, but that was just a pure lack of effort from Marquise Brown in a bad game. That was pretty upsetting to see, I'd say, as a Ravens fan. So that was not great. But we'll pump the brakes on the risk taker. I think he's still very turnover conscientious. Carl Nassib hits him kind of blind and forces a fumble there. It's been weird. I'm not surprised if there's another turnover this game against the damn good Broncos defense. But yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, for sure. So he is actually, first, I guess we should probably touch on the injury report because he was on it with a sore back, and everyone, of course, jumping in with the from the carrying the team jokes, which that's just good old-fashioned comedy, guy stuff. I love that. So great job by you, Twitter, on those jokes. But yeah, a sore back. And I kind of made the point that at a certain point, it's time to stop appearing on the injury report. We got to start practicing here. And essentially what it seems to me and if you see the way that they're approaching this, and it kind of sounds like they're essentially starting to just give him vet days, because effectively he is taking on a pretty big workload here, and he is pushing the ball down the field, and he's scrambling a lot. I feel like he's scrambling a lot more than he's doing designed runs this year. Then he is much more of a designed running quarterback, which some people don't really realize. He doesn't scramble as much, or at least didn't used to. Now he's doing more of that. So it seems like he's essentially getting vet days at this point, because a sore back, you feel like he might push through that, particularly in what's going to be a crucial game against a very good defense. So he is back at practice today. Anthony Averett winding up on the injury report, which they can't afford to get any thinner at corner. But they do have some guys working their way back. I don't know what the status of Nick Boyle is off the top of my head. I don't think he's going to be playing this week.
He hasn't practiced.
Yeah, so he hasn't practiced. So Rashad Bateman, Nick Boyle back at practice. I don't know if we're going to see them. I doubt we'll see Rashad. So an interesting injury report. Boykin, yeah. Well, yeah, but I don't think we're going to be seeing Rashad Bateman either way. I think he is practicing, actually, right?
Bateman has been practicing all week since Tuesday. That was their first practice. So has Boykin. I think Boykin has a really strong chance to play.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume they would inactivate Tylan Wallace. And Boykin will take his role on special teams. Boykin, a very good special teamer. Boykin, someone that they are probably more comfortable putting on the field at this point. We haven't seen much Tylan Wallace. I think he's had a few snaps offensively, maybe 3 or something. I would have to double check. But yeah, those guys. The big thing is getting the defensive front back. None of them tested positive, aside from Jalen Ferguson, which is really key in this game. Especially because going through, I didn't watch a ton of Broncos. I watched the second half of the Giants game from week 1. I watched the second, third, and fourth quarter from week 2. And then I just kind of skimmed through the Jets game. I
watched a little bit of the Jets game. That was a tough watch.
It certainly was. And this Broncos team is pretty much in the same boat as the Ravens. They're going to be without 7 starters. They're missing Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, both of their guards, while Netane Muti has already played a little bit, and he's not terrible.
And as we saw on Twitter, I mean, the Ravens are going to be at full strength. So
yeah. Broncos Twitter saying the Ravens are at full strength. But so they're without them. Josie Jewell, who has been their Mike and their kind of calm, steadying force defensively, is out. Bradley Chubb obviously out. Ronald Darby out. And there's probably a couple more I'm missing, but they have certainly, come blow to blow. And at this point, it feels like in terms of starters, they're probably in a similar boat to where the Ravens are. Let's say Averett can't go, which seems likely after a Thursday injury and not practicing Friday with an ankle, probably going to be tough. And so that's going to mean that the Ravens are without Peters. They're without Averett. They're without Derek Wolfe still. They're without Ronnie Stanley. They're without Edwards, Dobbins, Boyle, and probably still Bateman. So that's 8 starters. So this is kind of like a depth game for both teams.
Yeah, I would certainly say so. And I was kind of making fun of that Broncos Twitter account that said that they're going to be missing a lot of guys. Ravens are at full strength. It's a little preposterous, but I can understand if you're a fan of another team and you're not super plugged in on the fact that the Ravens lost a bunch of guys in training camp. Even though it was kind of a pretty public thing in the way that, especially in the way that the Dobbins, Edwards, and Peters injuries happened. But yeah, both teams going to be pretty banged up, but they've both shown themselves to be pretty gritty so far. The Ravens, have ground out 2 wins when they really, probably, I wouldn't say shouldn't have, but in instances where they really could have walked away with a loss. So they could just as easily be 0-3, while the Broncos, it's been much more of a steady hand. They've been kind of winning by, I think they've won by double digits in each of their games. I could be wrong on that, but they're doing what Football Outsiders likes and beating really bad teams and just kind of taking care of business. So they got a test on their hands this week, even if Jackson is on the injury report, and even if they have other guys not playing that they would like to be playing if you're Baltimore.
For sure. And this Broncos team, the statistics match the play, I would say. And I'd say the box score matches the play, which isn't always the case, as we know very well. But when you're starting to comb through this Broncos team, they're a team that makes very few mistakes. They don't have elegant, sophisticated schemes. They don't have a ton of deception or trickery or complexity to either side of the ball. They're a very lineup, and they're the team that I think Ravens fans want the Ravens to be. There's a large faction of Ravens fans that want the Ravens to be this much more disciplined and basic team. Their passing concepts are West Coast. They are very classic, quick timing. Bridgewater doesn't. I like Teddy Bridgewater a lot. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about him in many ways. One of the ones that is not wrong is that he does not have velocity. He reminds me of Joe Burrow a good bit in terms of kind of timing, quick, getting rid of the ball quickly. Those two, I think, have a somewhat similar game, relative athleticism on a similar level. But Bridgewater will throw picks. That is a misconception about him, that he's this really conservative game managing quarterback. Does he push the ball downfield? Right now, he is a good bit. He has, I believe, 18 attempts over 20 yards, which is second most in the NFL. I think he's gone 7 of 18, according to PFF. But there's no mustard on the ball, and he will throw balls up for grabs. When he gets pressured, he will start to run and roll and try and make something out of nothing, and will make mistakes. I mean, he's thrown 13, 14 picks in a season before. I just don't think this whole game manager narrative is true, just because he likes to get the ball out quickly a lot. And he has a very slim margin for error because of the lack of velocity that he has. So his timing, his mechanics, his footwork, it does a fantastic job. I think his biggest strength probably is looking off coverage and looking off defenders. You'll see him move his eyes to come back and open a throwing window really often. So I'm curious to see how this game plays out in that sense. The Broncos don't have a run after the catch threat, really. Sutton, I like Sutton. I think he's the player that Ravens fans would love to have in their offense. This big, he's able to get some long speed going and get really trucking downfield. Horrible after the catch. Tim Patrick can do some things after the catch. He's a 4-4 guy a little bit, but he's not shifty or,
Ravens fans would like to have a guy like that.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a guy like that. To be fair, the Ravens aren't the only team that floated him around, and he bounced around quite a few teams. So it's more of a credit to Tim Patrick for hanging in there and getting a shot, and to the Broncos for recognizing what he could do and recognizing what kind of guy he was. So Tim Patrick, I think, is I believe Vic Fangio said he's like a top NFL receiver, and he had 0 drops last year. Tim Patrick is the man. He's a dog. He is certified, a good NFL wide receiver.
It was floated that the Ravens were actually looking at maybe making a move for him before the season.
And he got the second round tender, I believe. And I guess it wouldn't have worked that way. I guess that the Ravens, I don't know. I would need to check the timeline on that. I want to say, obviously, that has to happen before the draft. And the Ravens didn't want to match. So they might have thought, maybe we won't go receiver in the first round. I guess that had to happen before the Orlando Brown trade, because they don't even have a second round pick after that. Mm-hmm. So it must have been before that.
Well,
and then everything kind of fell into effect.
This was like in the preseason. Apparently they were talking about,
You're right.
They were talking about like making a trade for him after Bateman got hurt, I think. So maybe kind of stepping in that sort of role for them. And like, it maybe might not have made like the long-term sense, but he probably would have helped this offense out a little bit. Kind of glad they didn't do it though.
Because he definitely would have helped this offense.
Yeah, for sure. Like 100% he would have, but kind of glad they didn't do it though, because they seem fine at wide receiver and they've got help on the way.
They do have help on the way. Marquise Brown, tough, probably, his worst game of his career, but came off of 2 really good games. Sometimes guys have bad games, plain and simple.
And I wouldn't say an overwhelming amount of positivity, but there was a good amount of positivity coming out of it, as opposed to have a bad game, tweet about soldiers. Like, it seems like from Harbaugh on down, it seems like everyone was there kind of willing to pick him up. He seemed pretty in good spirits about it. He was joking around about it a little bit.
Well, because he was getting thrown at. He's getting his targets, so he's not mad.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's he capitalized on it on his first 2 games, and I think that's why I'm happy to see Ravens fans not going too crazy on him right now. Which is, it's good. Let's just keep him in a good headspace. He's a good wide receiver. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth here, because that is what he is, in my opinion. I think he's really good.
And at this point, I am excited for Bateman to come back, and even Boykin, because while Boykin does make mistakes mentally, he's never, he's a pretty consistent deep target. It feels like, when he just hasn't had a lot of opportunity there. I'm excited for Bateman and Boykin to come back, and hopefully, I hate to say it, but at this point, there is just voodoo devil magic. When Marquise Brown gets open last year against the Chiefs a couple times, Lamar throws very inaccurate passes. When this year against the Lions, Marquise Brown gets a couple steps, Lamar throws a perfect. There's just some sort of bad juju where Lamar and Marquise, one of them can't get it right. I don't know what it is, but let's put Hollywood in the slot. Let's have him work underneath. Let's have him be that intermediate short, get him back involved that way with quick touches, timing stuff, get his confidence back up quickly that way. Hopefully Bateman can come in, Boykin can come back. Those guys can play on the outside, run deep, run coverage off. You can isolate Hollywood, who has really unique movement skills, against some defenders that aren't as quick in the slot. aren't as big, or get him linebackers trying to pick him up in zone, things like that. See if you can't get him back in the timing offense as opposed to the deep offense, and then integrate him back into the wild, fix his wing and let him fly later in the season in the deep ball category, because it feels like he's done really well underneath and in the intermediate. And there's just some bad juju in the deep ball game between Lamar Jackson and Hollywood Brown.
I was going to say, is it bad juju, or is that kind of bad game planning? Or is it the game plan is good, you just got to execute if you're Marquise? Because
both of them need to execute. Lamar needs to be accurate, which, gets overstated because no quarterback is accurate 20 yards downfield 100% of the time. None of them are accurate 70% of the time. The NFL leader downfield will be on target, which means hitting a guy in stride. Aaron Rodgers at his best hits guys 60% of the time downfield. So I think it's just execution when the ball's accurate. Got to make plays, got to sacrifice your body. And Hollywood was talking about how Keith Williams and T. Martin basically told him, leave it all on the field, stop worrying about getting hurt. And it looked like he was worried about taking hits or worried about what was going to happen after the catch. And you can't. Gotta have that full concentration.
I think he wants to be perfect too, and that's really going to hurt you, especially at a position like that. I think he looks at his cousin and he wants to be that, and he's not that. He's just like
he's not a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Yeah, he's
what it is.
He's a good player. Like, just be a good player. Get yourself open. Look the ball in. Make your catches. Get upfield. Make plays after the catch. You don't have to make. And you see this after the catch too. He tries to make the big play. He tries to shake guys out when sometimes it's hey man, just run and fall forward. You just be an athlete. Be the athlete that you are.
After the catch is fine, but it's
But he tries to do all this crazy dance move shit that AB does.
Well, that worked last week. He shook that defender up the sideline, gets 11 yards after the catch. He's been good after the catch this year.
No, he has. But there are just little moments, and maybe I should probably look into this a little bit more, to be fair. But I feel like there are little moments where he kind of he's just kind of dancing around, and maybe it's just my fear that he's going to fumble or something. But maybe there are little moments. I should look into it a little more. I should provide more details.
It's Goldilocks right now for me.
For sure.
Last year there was not enough after the catch. It was too much hesitation. It was too much, worry about what's going to happen after the catch. He had a bad game against the Colts, which was the Soldier game, had a couple drops there. Only one of them was on third down, I think. Then he has a bad game against the Browns, dropping the ball, ends up redeeming himself with a similar touchdown to what he scored against the Chiefs this year. And at the end of last year, we were thrilled to see him being decisive after the catch, not falling down. Now, before this game, he tweets out YAC, Y-A-C. He tweets out yards after catch, which he's been great doing over the first couple games. And it felt like it's Goldilocks. Last year wasn't enough after the catch. This year, he's trying to do too much. Find that warm bowl of porridge, not the cold one, not the hot one.
Work is going to be cut out this week. Broncos corners are absolutely filthy. I was reading up on shout out to the great James Ogden on Russell Street Report. He did his weekly battle plans article, and he kind of mentioned how the Broncos defense seems to be predicated on forcing outside throws, which we kind of saw that happen last week, and the Lions just kind of didn't really have the talent to be able to keep up with some of the Ravens receivers, which is why Lamar had such a good game and really should have had a much better game. But it's going to be tough, man. You got Surtain in the mix. You got some of these other guys. I think Ronald Darby is in that defensive backfield as well. So it's kind of what James was saying is it's going to be predicated on Lamar making those, as Gruden likes to say, turkey hole throws or honey hole throws down the sideline. And it's interesting because the Jets sort of tried to do that, and they tried to do these timing outside passes and all this different kind of stuff. And it's just with a guy like Zach Wilson, especially a rookie and a volatile player like that, it's for me, set up a throw in front of him, have him make the throw and just move the offense forward. But they really tried to go into what the Broncos wanted them to do, and they play right into their hands. Ravens have got to hope that their talent with Sammy Watkins, with Hollywood Brown, and maybe with Miles Boykin is going to be able to win in that respect.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't watch a ton of their defense in that Jets game because I wasn't terribly interested. The Jets were just very inept overall execution-wise.
I don't blame you. It was not.
But that's interesting because the Broncos play so much too high. The hole against too high is usually over the middle of the field, and that they're trying to take away outside. If you're playing cover 2, cover 4, 2-man, a lot of times if it's not a cover 1 from a too high shell, meaning someone's coming up and driving on the ball, you want to try to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Now they don't have Josie Jewell, their Mike linebacker, who's been doing a great job getting depth, doing a great job taking away stuff over the middle of the field. So against the Ravens, yeah, they're probably going to do that same thing. They're probably going to want to take away Mark Andrews. That's what the smart game plan is to take away Mark Andrews. They do run a lot of zone. I think that helps Mark Andrews in many ways, things of that nature. But ultimately, we've got a comment in here talking about the offense, and, we'll get to the Ravens win or the Ravens lose if, and to me, it's the Ravens lose if Von Miller wrecks shop. And he's going to be against Patrick McCary. He's going to be able to beat the shit out of him straight up. I mean, Jawan Taylor, the Jaguars right tackle, he's not an elite level player and maybe not even a good level player, but he's a first round guy that is strong as an ox, has, good footwork for the most part, can stunt some bull rushes or stall some bull rushes. And Von Miller is just consistently driving him right into the pocket. Jawan Taylor's got really long arms. He's huge, all these great things. So McCary is going to, what McCary's doing right now is trying to be as savvy as possible. And I talked about how Teddy Bridgewater has a really low margin for error. Well, so does Patrick McCary. He doesn't have the length to recover. He's not an elite level athlete. And so the Ravens lose on offense if, Lamar starts pressing, doesn't look comfortable in the pocket, and Von Miller is just wrecking shop against McCary. The Ravens right tackle and right guard, him and Zeitler aren't passing off stunts effectively. I think Von Miller has 4 sacks, and I think 3 of them have come on stunts where they do what Derek Wolfe used to do, where Derek Wolfe would crash. Von Miller comes inside untouched and he's the best, maybe the best finisher in the NFL in terms of converting sacks out of pressures. So it's going to be interesting to see how Von Miller is countered. I think it has to be Patrick Ricard. I think it has to be Eric Tomlinson. I think they're going to have to pull the left guard, whether it's Powers or Cleveland at various points in the game, where they run those play action fakes, pull the left guard, have the left guard take the inside track away, and that allows Lamar Jackson to be able to step up and scan a little bit. So Von Miller is the X factor, is the not even the X factor. He's just the factor right now.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be an interesting matchup, and it's interesting that Ramey says his eyes are going to be on Von Miller. I think that's a reference that he would like Von Miller to come to Baltimore at some point, which we've also talked about. So a good game scouting in that respect, but they've also, I guess we can stick with their defense. They've also got a pretty dynamite duo at safety there as well.
They do. Kareem Jackson, one of the most underrated corners of his career throughout his duration in the NFL, consistently been a really solid football player. He's the one that will play that more conservative kind of rat role, that robber defender that will drive down when they do rotate into middle of the field close coverages, cover 1, cover 3. And he's just consistent, sound, good tackler. This defense is, again, in a lot of ways, they're the antithesis of the Ravens. They're a really solid tackling defense. I don't think any of them have more than 2 missed tackles. If I recall correctly, I'm going to double check that. But yeah, really sound defense that has range in Justin Simmons. I went on to cover 2 Broncos with, why is his name escaping me? Good Lord. Rough day. Been sick. Okay. Joe Rolls. And he was talking about, apparently Broncos fans want Justin Simmons benched right now. That's like a narrative that he's playing so poorly they want him benched. And I said, I think Eric DeCosta's got a 5th round pick for him. If that's the case, so
that's interesting. He says that because he's a 65.2 on PFF, and that's kind of, obviously it doesn't tell the whole story, but
the secondary grades are by far PFF's weakest.
Yeah, and I saw like somebody put it out as like, I assumed it was like satirical and just kind of making fun of the fact that at this point Bleacher Report just like has to put out content, and like it was like one of their slideshows, like one player that needs to be benched for every team, and it said, well, Justin Simmons doesn't have like X amount of tackles, so he's the player the Broncos should bench. And I read that as like complete satire.
That's what it was. Bleacher Report. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's like a legit opinion that like actual fans hold. I think that might have just been like a Bleacher Report. We need to like write a clickbaity thing for our slideshow.
Probably. That's probably what it was. But yeah, so PFF has 2 missed tackles for Reed, Simmons, Shamar Stephen, who's an inside defensive lineman, Von Miller, Kareem Jackson, and then no one else has more than 1. So they are not missing many tackles. They like to keep everything in front of them, have those safeties high. Vic Fangio and Brandon Staley of now the Chargers. Staley comes from Fangio's defense. That's his tree, and it's a 2-high tree. Those are the 2 most dedicated 2-high defenses in the NFL. That doesn't mean you can't run middle of the field close coverage, but they do obviously have a propensity to play soft off in those two high shells, and it looks like cover 4 shells a lot of the time because the corners will give cushion. But that is kind of the polar opposite of what you want to do against the Ravens. Give them a bunch of space to operate. They're going to run the ball to the perimeter. They're going to be able to make hay, especially when you're without Bradley Chubb, especially when you're without Josie Jewell. You're going to have Justin Strad checking in there, an inexperienced linebacker out of Wake Forest. Yeah, so they kind of have two will linebackers right now. Alexander Johnson is one of my favorite players in the NFL. He is a machine. He plays like what people think Devin Bush is, and he's a lot bigger. So he's got some freaky athleticism. He's a good blitzer. He's solid in coverage. He can run. He can make plays against the run. So I think he is the secondary player that is going to be most important for this Broncos defense, and it's going to be pretty tough to win if Von Miller isn't wrecking shop and Alexander Johnson is getting taken advantage of it all. And yeah, you'll see that in his PFF grades. It looks like they've got him with green scores in every category. So he's a very well-rounded athletic linebacker.
Nice. So I guess, do we think that covers basically their defense? Should we switch over to the Ravens defense versus Teddy Bridgewater a little bit more in depth?
I think we should finish up on the run game a little bit. What I feel is going to be successful is incorporating RPOs again. And we haven't seen enough of it. Freezing some of those guys. I would be attacking the left side of the Broncos with Alejandro Villanueva, who has been moving ground really well. He has been exactly the opposite of what many Steelers fans said he is. He has been a really, really consistently, sometimes dominant run blocker for the Ravens. He has been using his length on the second level to trap or snatch and then trap, using his two arms to come down when linebackers shoot their hands. He's breaking them, and then he is trapping them down on the ground. Been an animal as a run blocker. The Lions did a good job kind of suffocating it last week. They had a good game plan, but as we all know, the Ravens should have lit them up. Those drop passes played a big factor, but I see the Ravens using a healthy mix of power run game and generating some numbers advantages, forcing those safeties to come up and make plays, which they absolutely can. Having a too high defense as a shell it's good for the perimeter because it allows a safety to be on each side of the field so that there's not one safety having to sprint and run a long alley. So it helps make plays in the perimeter run game, but the Ravens are going to need to attack them downhill and use inside zone, use duo, use some interior power stuff, all that good stuff. So this is going to be a fun battle running the ball. Lamar has a little bit of a dinged up back. Maybe it's more of a rest situation. I imagine if it was bad, he wouldn't play. So I'm curious to see the level of involvement they have for Lamar. Needs to be a big day from Patrick Ricard. Needs to be a big day from Mark Andrews. Needs to be a big day from Eric Tomlinson, as well as the perimeter blockers. And if Miles Boykin can come back and go lay some wood on the perimeter, you can go attack Patrick Surtain in the run game. You can go attack these corners, make their linebackers run, make them read. And it's going to be a fun battle. Vic Fangio knows Greg Roman well. They've coached against each other many times, and I believe. And it's going to be a good matchup.
They actually haven't coached against each other. They've been on a lot of teams together.
Right. They're on the 49ers together.
Yeah, and I think Stanford too, actually, and maybe the Ravens back in the day too. So that's kind of funny how
they know each other really well.
I'm interested to see, and this might be a little bit of a galaxy brain take on my part, but home field advantage, I think, really proved itself to be more of a factor last year than I think people realized, and this place is really big for that. I'm interested to see how much pre-snap motion and how much audibling, if the Ravens are even doing a ton of that, is affected in this game, because this place can get pretty fucking loud.
It certainly can. That thin air cuts through. Broncos fans are insane. That is a place that I really wish I was going to this game. I'm going to be going to the Miami game instead, but this would have been a fun trip. Obviously, Denver, my favorite landlocked city, maybe that or Nashville, but would have loved. And I honestly just feel like the Broncos and the Ravens are very similar organizations in our lifetime. The Broncos have kind of had some more lows and maybe some more highs too, a little bit. They both have won 2 Super Bowls in the last couple decades. We will kind of, they obviously have Elway with 2 at the end of his career in the 90s as the Ravens are getting fired up. But that was interesting way. But since then, since the Ravens won their first Super Bowl, it feels like 2 pretty parallel organizations that are very classy, have a good fan base. The Broncos fan base is a lot larger in terms of geography and kind of size, population. They dominate that entire true Midwest area, and that stadium gets raucous. There's obviously the elevation factor, the conditioning factor, all that good stuff. So normally, you can kind of overhype some of the advantages of home field advantage, but the Broncos have one geographically and in terms of a really loud, consistent crowd.
Yeah, so I think coaching staff is going to have to be really hammering home fundamentals and just kind of really hammer home that if we call a play, just be ready to run that play, and let's just drive forward, drive off the ball, and do what we have to do in this one, because this is it's a tough matchup, a 3-0 football team that is no fluke of a 3-0, and Ravens have their work cut out for them if they want to get to 3-1. But it's a very big opportunity to prove that they are the gritty team that I think we have seen them to be over the first 3 weeks.
For sure. Somebody needs to help Lamar Jackson this week. He didn't get a ton of help last week. Sammy Watkins had a nice game. Mark Andrews had a nice game. Mark Andrews helped him a lot. But, right now, the touchdowns haven't been there. We need to see a game where Lamar Jackson's able to get a couple in the end zone. The offensive line needs to really, 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 really have a strong game here against a defensive front that has, they're without Chubb, but they still have Shelby Harris and Von Miller and some veterans in that front that can do some damage. And right now, Lamar Jackson, Ravens PR tweets out, leading the NFL in yards per carry, 7.17, yards per completion, 14.3, 20-yard rushes. He has the most in the NFL at 4. And 20-yard completions, he has the 4th most at 14. So somebody needs to help out. They need to get this run game going. The backs need to get going a little bit. RPOs would really help that, to get the ball out of his hand quickly and let some guys make plays after the catch. So I'd love to see that aspect of it. And if that can happen, I think the Ravens can put up, well over 20 points, or at least 20 points, and make hay on the offensive side of the ball.
Sounds good. Prediction time.
I'm watching this Broncos team, and I just really, the Ravens have missed tackles for sure. Javonte Williams can make guys miss. Melvin Gordon's an athlete. Noah Fant is sneaky good after the catch, really big dude, really great contact balance, things like that. But I think the Broncos are going to have to be really perfect against the Ravens defense. If the Ravens are without Averett, that definitely hurts, especially because you're at the mercy of Tavon Young and Jimmy Smith playing through the entire game. That's an underrated aspect. And they're probably without Deshaun Elliott, I imagine, who didn't practice all week. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he's practicing today, but
Didn't know.
He didn't practice today, so Ravens down a couple guys in the secondary. Going to make it a little fishy. Again, this is a depth game, and I like John Harbaugh in a depth game. I don't like the Broncos in Mile High, but I think Lamar Jackson's the better quarterback. I think the Ravens are going to be able to make enough plays offensively. They have more horses in terms of healthy perimeter options offensively. If they're able to contain Von Miller, you can't stop him, but you can contain him and limit him and make him run and tire him out a little bit. So I'm going to go Ravens. Let's go 20-24. Broncos, I think they score like 2 touchdowns. Let's call it a field goal. Let's go 24-17 Ravens, close at the end of the game, and another stressful game.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same way, but like I wrote today, I think I trust this Ravens team more than I've trusted them in a long time. They're just making the plays they need to make, man. It's not always looking pretty. It's looked sloppy at times, but they're gutting them out. And like I don't know if there's like EPA per, plus gut, whatever it might be. I don't know if there's like a grit stat, and it might be a little sports talk radio-y, but I really trust them right now. I trust Wink to force Teddy Bridgewater to make some mistakes. To your point, the guy he fires it down the field a lot more than people realize. And I trust Lamar.
Very little margin for error, though, when he does.
Yeah, exactly. So I trust the defense to step up. I really hope Anthony Averett does play, because I think that's going to be crucial. But I do also trust Lamar Jackson to keep what I think is a pretty good level of play rolling, and hopefully clean up the turnovers. I think they do that. It's going to be a tough game either way, and I'm going to predict a Ravens win 26-24.
That would be too much for my little heart to take. The one way the Ravens, I think, can blow this team out is if you get back Houston fresh, you get back Williams fresh, you get back Matabike fresh. Broncos have 2 very inexperienced guards, and a center that only has 1 year under his belt. Their right tackle, Bobby Massey, is average, very average in terms of what he puts on the field. Bowles, a stud at left tackle, so take that as you please. But Ravens can dominate this offense if they can get pressure, force a turnover or 2. You can get Teddy Bridgewater to make mistakes under duress, to make them one-dimensional. Their run game has 1 really long touchdown from Melvin Gordon and they've struggled otherwise to generate. Noah Fant, not a great run blocker. Albert O, not a great run blocker. So if this Ravens front can take over, that's the way that the Ravens blow this game out. And they could to an extent, but the Broncos are a well-coached defense, and I think they keep it close, and this was a fun episode.
Yeah, definitely. So, fun, tight little lunch hour episode here. You got anything else before we get rolling?
Again, just that's the thing I guess we didn't talk about. Stunts. Teddy Bridgewater's never faced the Ravens, which I think, they give you some unique looks. You can watch it on tape, but it's a little different, and they'll throw something different at you every time. If the Ravens defensive front can win this game for them, most of the game, that would be a really big help for the secondary. That would be a really big help for the Ravens offense. And again, getting to Teddy Bridgewater, major key. He is not this risk avert quarterback that everyone thinks. He will throw up jump balls. He will try to make plays when he's getting tackled. He will throw picks. He hasn't yet this year. That's what they want. Everyone thinks that him and Drew Lock are these crazy different parallel quarterbacks. Well, I mean, they threw the same amount of picks last year, pretty much. I think they were within like one. So it's going to be very interesting to see play out. And I think, again, Houston, Campbell, Matabike, Williams, away, Bowser needs a redemption game. The Broncos are probably going to target those Ravens linebackers over the middle of the field. So that's all the good stuff.
Yep, absolutely. And hey, Hollywood Brown, redemption game. Let's do it. Let's make it happen and bounce back and prove last week was an aberration and that you're still on a really good pace. And, it could be fairly easy for him to break the 1,000-yard mark this year if he turns around with 17 games. So hopefully he's able to do that. Hopefully he starts that turnaround today. But him as well, I wanted to key on. But other than that, running a little over 40 minutes, we can get out of here. Did want to promote something real quick. We got our merch still rolling strong. So we've had some orders roll in on some of these new shirts that we put up. Got our Go For It right here. We got our Tuck It right here, which is a personal favorite of mine. I'm going to have to grab myself one of those at some point. But we did want to keep pushing that. I'll keep tweeting about it. We'll keep tweeting about it from the pod account, which you can follow at Podcast Beatdown on Twitter. You can follow me at Jake Luke. That is LOUQUE. You can follow Spencer at Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4. Hope you guys have yourselves a grand weekend. See all the
have yourselves a good one, and we'll continue the little contest. I'm gonna add on to the contest for the shirts. Apple reviews. Send in an Apple review. If you don't listen to us on Apple, you don't use Apple, you don't have an iPhone, then tweet or Instagram. Tweet it. Send it to us, tag us in it, and whoever has the funniest review again will get a free shirt of your choice and your selection of size again. So give us a review in any way, shape, or form. It can be on Facebook, it can be on Twitter, it can be on Instagram, it can be on Apple reviews, anything. Make sure we see it. If we don't see it, DM it to us, send it to us on Instagram or Twitter. And if we don't like it or acknowledge it or something of the sort, and I'll get you a free shirt in your selection. So make sure to get those out, and we'll do a couple. We got some shirt orders rolling in. Those are going to ship out this Monday. So if you have ordered a shirt, they will be coming out on Monday, and you can expect them, I think, 5 business days or within after that. And we appreciate all the orders, everybody supporting us. It gives us, funds to be able to invest into this podcast more, grow this podcast, and keep this train rolling. We love you guys. Thank you very much for listening. And hopefully the Ravens are coming out of Mile High with another win, looking at 3-1. If not, 2-2, not a horrible place to be. And that does it for us.
Absolutely. So until next time.
See ya.
Arrivederci.